Okay, guys, good evening. Let's start with our session number 14. And this session is going to be on HTTP client. Okay, so first of all, let me list down the things what all we are going to cover. So in our session number 14, we are mostly going to cover about HTTP, and then we will look at under HTTP, we will look at promises and we'll look at observable. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty much all right. So let's start with our session. This session is going to be short and a little lighter. Hope it will be light for you as well. Okay. So whenever you want to communicate from your client, who is the client? Browser. Whenever you want to communicate from client to the server, right? What you use HTTP. What is HTTP? HTTP is a protocol. HTTP is acronym and its full form is Hypertext Transfer Protocol, right? So HTTP is used to communicate from client to the server. Okay. So what is a protocol? Protocol is nothing but a set of rules, set of protocols which a request has to follow, and a response is accordingly sent back to the client. Okay. So Angular has its own HTTP implementation, and it is already present in your modules file. Let's see, where is it? app.module.ts. Okay, here you can see when you create a project via Angular CLI, then it automatically includes one module called as HTTP module. Import HTTP module from Angular/HTTP. Okay, so Angular is also having its own implementation of HTTP using which you can communicate with the server. Okay, so why you need to communicate with the server? You might want to get some information, you might want to create some information, you might have to update, you might have to delete, right? So these are four majorly performed operations from a client to the server, right? So for all this stuff you are really going to use HTTP module. Okay, so as you need to understand that why it will work for us, because we have included HTTP module in our app.module.ts. Okay, and the same we have imported in here as well. In the imports we have written HTTP module. However, it is already done for you from Angular CLI. Okay, so you need not to change here anything. When we will change, I will let you know. All right. Yeah, so let me open this. So by default, what happens in your Angular 2? Angular 2 actually uses the concept of observables, okay, to communicate, right? As I told you, right, regarding this in JavaScript, what happens? Browser sends a request to the server, right? And after that, it moves to the next line of code because it is asynchronous, right? Since it is asynchronous, then what it has to do, it has to register some callback functions, right? So those callback functions are now responsible to get the response from the server. Whether it is a success response or it is an error response, that is of no concern right now. But only thing is, these are two functions which are responsible to to take care of the response. Okay, so Angular 1, if you look at Angular 1 or Angular 1.x, they use the concept of promises. Okay, Angular 1 uses the concept of promises to interact with the server, right? To make HTTP call, they make use of promises. But Angular 2 makes use of a concept called as observable. Okay, so what is observable? Observable is not yet fully fledged working. I'll not say working, but it is not fully fledged in market. Okay, so Angular, this observable is a ES7 concept. Okay, so ECMAScript will be bringing this concept of observables in ES7 when ECMAScript will release its 7th release. Okay, but Angular liked the concept of observable, and what they did, they said, okay, we will use this concept of observables in our Angular 2. Okay, but the challenge was they cannot implement it fully because this observable concept is yet to come in ES7, right? So what they did, they did one implementation and they haven't removed promises as well. Okay, so in Angular 2 you will be able to use promise as well as observables. Okay, because why they cannot remove promise? Because observables itself is not yet fully fledged in market, and it is not, you can say, officially it is not yet released. All right, so that is why they have to keep promises as well, and most of the times you will also be using promise. Why? Because Angular 2 has officially announced, and they told as well, that observable is a kind of experimental concept, and if you are going to write some production ready code, you should not use observable. You should use promise only, because promises are in the market and they are being used for quite long, and they are stable as well. Okay, but still we will learn both. So today we are going to learn promises as well as observables. All right, their concept is looks same. I don't know what is the much of a difference between them other than the syntax. Okay, and one more thing is, one more difference which I see is observables works on the concept of publish subscribe mechanism. Okay, so there is a, let's suppose something is happening and that is published. Okay, and then you subscribe to it, right? You subscribe to something which is published. That is the what on which the observables work. All right, now as I told, the concept of observables is yet to come, right? It is yet to come with ES6, ES7, sorry. All right, but Angular 2 is already using it. How? Angular 2 is using it because it is using a third-party library called as RxJS. Okay, to use the concept of observables, Angular 2 is actually using a third-party library, and which is called as RxJS. All right, so whenever you will be seeing that when you are creating a Angular 2 project, you will be also dealing with RxJS library. For us, it was good that Angular CLI has given us the complete project, but if you see in your package.json, you will see that there is a dependency called as RxJS. Okay, since it is in the dependencies, so that means it must have been downloaded as well. Where I can see that? I can see in node modules. Okay, so in node modules you will see a library named as RxJS. If you see here RxJS, it's there, right? There's a lot of stuff under RxJS as well. It's a complete library. Okay, So I will tell you how you will use it. All right. So the main thing is the concept that you should know that Angular also doesn't do from its own. It is also using a separate library which uses observables. Okay. All right. So now what we will do, we will create two services. Okay. No service, we will create one only, but from that I will tell you how you can fetch the data, right? Since our topic is what? Our topic is about HTTP, right? So I will tell you how you can make use of HTTP to fetch some data. Okay. And to fetch the data, we will use both the concepts. First one is promise and second one is observables. Okay. So any questions till now? If everything is clear that what we are going to do today. Okay. Okay, then let's proceed. So this we are not going to go by this, but I am already having something. From there I'll show. Yeah. So what I have done, I have created two buttons. First button and second button in the UI. Okay. And I just comment out other stuff. Okay. So what I'm doing, I opened this app.component file, app.component.html, where I created two buttons. First one is fetch data using observables. Second one is for fetch data from promise. Okay, as I told, we are going to use both the ways. And on click of both of these buttons, I am calling one function, which is fetch data OB. So that means fetch data using observables. And second one is fetch data promise. Okay. So these are two functions which correspondingly fetch the data using observable and promise. Okay. If I show you in the output, you will see these two buttons. Right. So these are the two buttons which we will be using to fetch the data. Okay. Now let's go to our component file where we will be implementing these two functions, fetch data observable and fetch data promise. First of all, let's look at fetch data promise function. Okay. So I go to my component and see here fetch data promise. Okay. Fetch data promise is a function in which we are doing something. Okay. So forget about this, what we are doing for now. So this is the function which is going to help us. First of all, let's see if this function is getting invoked or not. I just write a console statement. And let's see if it is printed or not. All right. So you should also do something like this only, that whenever you are writing code at smaller intervals, just keep on checking. Okay, if that smaller stuff is also working or not. If that is working, then proceed further. So this helps you basically. This helps you in the getting the errors early. Okay, knowing if something is going wrong. Rather than writing 100 lines of code and then debugging it, it is easier that you debug at earlier point of time. Okay, so I click this button and you can see fetch data called is printed. So that means my function is getting called. All right. Now what we have to do, we have to do the logic to fetch data from somewhere. Okay. So to write that logic, what I do, I will create a service. Okay, what service? Angular service. All right. So what I did, I created a service. Let's create a service. So how will you create a service? You guys already know it. How you create a service? Ng generate service and then name of the service. Okay. Let's say remote. Okay. So what it will do, it will create a remote service for us. All right. I will not create it, I am already having it. Okay, so I will just again run the server. So once you will do that, you will get two files, right? First one is the spec file and another is service file. So where is our service file? Remote service, it is here. All right, so you will not get everything, all of this I have written, but initially what you will get something like this much. Okay, and not even this one, like this much. Okay, but rest of the stuff I have done. All right, so I will tell you what all has to be done. Okay, so as I told, I am going to invoke the functions or invoke the actual service from this service. Right, why I created a service? Because this is something which can be used by several components. Right, when you create a service, you create a service when you want to make it available to all the components. Okay, however, for now I am going to call it from only one component, but in your projects you will be using service to make it injectable to all the components. All right, so in this service what I will do, before writing the code here, I will tell you, you have to first inject it, right? You have to inject it in the component to use it, right? So how you use it? Simply by writing public remote service, and it is of type remote service. Okay, so what it will do, it will create a object of remote service. This is simple, right? You just imported it and you have created an object of it. Then we will call its function. I will tell you where. First, let's do the business logic in our remote service. All right. Now, what is our purpose of today's session? It is about the HTTP, right? So what we need to do, we need to create the object of HTTP and make some request, right? So that is what you do here. You first import HTTP from Angular/HTTP. Okay, forget about this URL search params and JSONP. Okay, so this one you can forget about for now. All right, so what you did, you import HTTP from Angular/HTTP. Okay, and then what we do, we create an object of this HTTP from the constructor. Okay, forget about this JSONP as well. Just think about this private HTTP, and it is of type HTTP. So what it has done, it has given us the object of HTTP. All right, now since you are having the object of HTTP ready, now what you can do, you can call their functions. All right, so what we will do, we will use get function to fetch some data. All right, so I created one function get data, from which I will be making a HTTP request using a promise. Right, there are two things. One is using the promises and another is using the observables. So I have written this function get data to make use of HTTP get request in case of promises. Okay, so forget about this return and everything. Just look at this code. This.http.get. What is the meaning of this? This.http refers to this object, our local property. .get. .get is a function, right? There are a lot of functions: get, post, put, delete. All those are functions on HTTP, right? So what we are doing, we want to fetch some data using a get function, http.get. And what get takes? Get takes the URL from where you want to fetch the data. Okay, so here you will be passing the URL of the API from where you want to fetch some data. For now, what I have done, I have just hard coded this data inside my local folder structure only. Okay, so currently I am reading this file data.json. Okay, using HTTP, I am just reading this file data.json, which is present in my local machine only. Okay, but in real life you will be making some request to the remote server. Okay, so this is mocking of data. I mocked it into the data.json, and that is what I have mentioned here, app/data.json. I want to fetch this file. Okay, then you see one thing here. What is this to promise? Why we have done to promise? We have written this to promise because by default, as I told, Angular 2 works on the concept of observables. Okay, but as I told, they haven't removed the concept of promises as well, right? Because they can't. So that is why they have given a function called as to promise. That means I want to convert this request to promise. That is why its function name is to promise. So that means I want to use it as a promise, not as a observable. Okay, and this to promise is what? It is an operator in RxJS library. So you can see at line number 4, I am importing this rxjs/add/operator/to promise. Okay, so RxJS has lot of operators. One of them is to promise. There are others as well. I will tell you, like map and catch. I will tell you where we will use it. But this is the operator to promise. This you will use to convert your request to a promise instead of it observable, making it a promise. Okay. So now you have converted your request to promise, right? As you know that promise has two functions, right? One for the resolvement and another for the rejection, right? So that is what written here. First function then will be called when? Then is called when the promise is resolved. Okay. And there is a next function called as catch. Catch is called when the promise is rejected. Okay. So in Angular 2, implementation of HTTP, they use two functions. First one is then and another is catch. Using these two functions, you can either uh, resolve the promise or you can reject the promise. All right. Now, what I am doing in then function, I am returning the response. Whatever the response I got in this function, right? After making a request it as a promise to this file, what it will do? It will return its content, and its content will be stored in response. Okay, I am returning that content. Okay, what is this .json function? This JSON function is also very new. Let me tell you where I can tell you from here. JSON function. Where is it? If I tell you response.json. Okay, so if you look at Mozilla Development Network, its official API, what it says. Yes. So this is an experimental technology. Okay, again, this is also experimental. Response.json. Okay, now what it gives you? It gives you a object of promise. Response.json also gives you the object of promise. You can read here. It says it returns a promise that resolves with an object literal containing the JSON data. Okay. So what you can do here, since we have returned it, so return this means now again you are returning a promise only. Okay. So from where you will be calling this function get data, you have to resolve it. Right. That part we will cover. So for now, just see we are returning the response simply. Okay, so resolving is not a big thing. Only thing you have to focus is you are returning the response. Okay, then there's a catch function as well. What catch does? catch also returns the error. Okay, catch will be called when? Catch function will be called when there is an error. All right, then I'm just returning the error. I'm not doing nothing much. I'm just returning the error. Okay, again this catch is what? This catch is again a operator in RxJS library. Okay, so you have to import this as well. Even you can skip this if there is no error. If you are sure, then you can skip this part. But it is always better to keep the callback functions for both success as well as error. Okay, so now your code is ready to be called. Okay, you are ready to make a request to this data.json file. Data.json is where? It is residing in your app folder only, local folder only. Okay, so this example I am showing how you will access it from the local folder, but one example I will show you where you can make a request to the server. Okay, I will host this JSON file I will host online. Okay, so now this is done. So you have made a logic, you have written logic to fetch the data using a promise. Let's see, now go back to our component from where we will call this get data function. All right, so I go here and from my fetch data promise function I will call get data function. All right, so here I have written this dot remote service. Remote service is just object of this remote service. Okay, and this remote service is having a get data function, right? I will call that function only remote service dot get data. Right, now I am resolving it. As I told, what this response.json gives you, it again returns you a object of promise, right? So if since it is returning object of promise, you have to resolve it, right? So that is what I have written here, get data dot then, and then I am just writing a function. It is a function, right? What type of function it is? It is an arrow function. Okay, if you do not want to look at this type of code, what you can do is you can anytime write one function if that is more understandable. Okay, you can anyways write like this response, and if you want to just print it, you can print console.log of response like this. Okay, if it is more understandable, then you can use this as well. This is simpler, right? However, you should anyways learn the latest things, which is this one. Okay, which is this code, right? This is very shorthand, right? But it is it takes little time to understand. Okay, yeah, all right. So what is the meaning of resolving a promise? So resolving a promise means, as I told, promise basically gives you two things. Okay, it tells that either I'm going to return you the complete information which you want, or I'm going to give you an error, right? So what is the meaning of resolving it? Resolving it means now promise has given you one promise. Okay, it has given you a promise, it has made you a promise that I will give you either of these, right? But still you have to write some code, right, to accept it. If your promise is going to give you an error, you have to do something. If it is going to give you the actual response, then you have to do something, right? So that is what we call it as resolving a promise, right? If either of that happens, you have to do something, right? So that is what you write then function to resolve it. If then if your promise is resolved, then it will come to then function. If it is rejected, then it will go to error function. Okay, I haven't written the error part here. You can write error part as well. How you will write it? You will write it like this. dot error. Okay, and inside this again you will be writing one function. Okay, so in this as well you can accept some, maybe like this error response, and then you can take some action. You can show a message to user, or I am just printing it simply. Okay, since anyways our call is going to be successful, that is why I haven't written this error. All right, here also you can use the same syntax like which I have used here, shorthand syntax, which is using the arrow function. All right, how will you write that? You will write by writing error and then like this, and then you can write one line code, console.log of error, like this. Okay, this is the arrow function syntax. Okay, so you can use either of the syntaxes. Either you use function, normal function which you generally use in JavaScript, or you can use this arrow function as well. All right. Okay. Now let's have a look at this data.json, what it contains. It simply contains one object which contains a key value pair, name equals to a cat guild. Simple object, right? Let's close this now. Now we will see this flow working. We got a button in the UI. From that UI, I am calling the function in my component. This function fetch data promise. Inside this function, I am calling the function of remote service get data. We go to this, whatever get data is doing, it is calling the http.get function, right? And from the http.get, I am right, I written this code to convert it to promise. Then I'm having two functions, first one for the resolvement and another is for the rejection. Okay.
Rachit, in this get data method, I mean, we are making a Ajax call to the server, right?
Where?
In get data.
Yeah, this one.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, ideally you will be making a request to the server only, but since we do not have a server who can serve us the data, so what I have done, I just created one file in my local system only to fetch
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that I understood. It is a Ajax call, right?
Yes, internally it is. So
Okay.
what what frameworks gives you? Frameworks gives you a lot of abstraction, right? So
Okay,
what
okay.
they
So
have done,
internally, I mean, they will be creating a XML HTTP request object
exactly,
and okay, okay.
exactly.
Got it, got it.
Okay, yeah. So HTTP is a complete module separate, right? It's if it is just giving us get function. Okay, so it just says you pass your URL to the get function and it will give you the data. Creating an object of XML HTTP request, all that stuff is handled internally.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Now let's see this complete flow working. So I go here. Okay, there is some error. Let's see. Remote service line number 11. All right. What is the problem here? Okay, I removed the JSONP. All right. Now it should work. Okay. So we have this button, right? Fetch data using promise. This is what we have, for which we have written the code. So I click on this button. Okay. Okay, I think here we have to use catch. Oh, this one is actually not present there. This is not there. Let's see. Okay, so I click on this button. Exactly. You can see it is giving us the object. What is that object? Name equals to a cat guild. Right? Where is it printed? It is printed at line number 27. Where is the line number 27? This one. Okay. So here it is printing the console.log of response. What is the response? Response is nothing but the content of data.json file. What is inside data.json? It is this object only. Okay. I hope you guys got it. That how the flow worked.
How did this then function got used in app components?
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we are not returning a then, no, and we are not registering, making it to promise also here.
yes. So what I told that what this JSON response.json function returns. This
Okay.
function returns you a object of promise, right? It's the core promise, core HTTP JavaScript promise.
Okay.
Okay. So this catch and everything is required because we are using the concept of observables and then converting it to promise. That is why all these things are required.
Okay.
Okay. There we are just resolving it. We got this data, then what to do? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So what I will do is I will again I will repeat this, but now this time I will repeat it via observables. Okay. So I will repeat a whole concept, but via observables. All right. In observables also we are going to do the same thing. Only thing is little difference in the syntax. All right. Yeah. Manjeshwar is asking how to update and how to add an object. That you can't do it from here because we do not have the actual services. Okay. Only thing is when you want to create or update, what you will be doing instead of this get request, you will be making a put or post request. Okay. When let's suppose you are having the actual services running, if you know server side code, you can write that. Okay, in Java or Node.js, whatever technology, you can actually write the services using which you can create the endpoints which can either post it you or put it or delete it. Okay, so that is pretty simple. That is nothing much. Okay, if you want to use post, you can use post. All right, since get is what you can achieve, that is why I am showing the via examples of get. All right, now let's talk about the second one, which is using the observables. Again, for observables, what we will do, we will create a again button. This is the button using which we will actually call our observables. Okay, so I just created another function, fetch data OB. What is written in that fetch data OB? It is here. All right, inside fetch data OB, I am just going to do some stuff. Okay, this one, this line. Okay, this I will come later. But only thing is you can see from our remote service, I will be calling another function get data OB. Earlier we were calling get data for the promise. Now I will call get data OB for observables. Okay, these functions are user defined only. Okay, you can give any name. Now we go here and let's look at what is written inside get data OB. Okay, so to make use of this, first of all, I have to tell you about this. Where is it? Observable. You can, yeah, observable, leave observables. Uh, Only thing is, or the only difference which I can see is in promises you are having then and catch function, right? In observables, what you have map and catch function. Okay, map function is called when it is a success. Okay, and catch function is called when it is a error. Okay, and other thing is here in your promises you are converting it to promise, right? Before writing this get and everything, you have to convert it to promise using to promise function, but here you need not to do that because by default it is observable only. So that is why it is already knowing about map and catch function. Okay, again this map and catch are what? These are imported from RxJS library only, right? As I told, observables are implemented via RxJS library. Okay, so the same thing we have written here, this.http.get, and then I have written the name of the API, which in our case is just a JSON file. After that, the same syntax. Only thing is difference in the name, map and catch. Rest everything is same. Return response.json, return error. Okay. Now difference will come where? Difference will be coming while implementing this or while consuming this function. Okay. Where we will call this? We will call this function in app.component.ts, right? This file. From here we will be calling it get data ob, right? So as I told that observables works on the concept of publish subscribe mechanism, right? They work on publish subscribe mechanism. Now when you have written this function, you have basically published a function. Okay, just think in your mind that you have published one function which can give you something, right? So since there is a publisher who has published it, then what you can do, you can subscribe to it. Okay, so how you subscribe it? You subscribe it via subscribe function. Okay, so instead of this then function of a promise, you will actually use the subscribe function of observables. Rest everything remains the same. Dot subscribe, and inside that also you are doing the same thing. You are not doing anything else. The same thing. Response, and then you are just printing the response. Okay, so what is the actual benefit of observables that might come in ES7, or maybe sometime we'll get to know when they will actually make it public and make it available. Okay, but what for now I can only see the some syntax difference and some concept is different, that in promises you do not follow the publish and subscribe mechanism, but here you follow the publisher subscriber mechanism. Okay, but still I will always recommend that if you are going to write some code, some production ready code, you are going to use it publicly, then go for promise only. Okay, because promise is something which is fully stable. Okay, so here also if I show you, even using this code you will be getting the same response. Okay, let's see. I click on this one promise first, which you have just shown. You are getting the same thing, right? Object, the same object. Now if you click on this button, again you are getting the same thing. Okay, so Angular 2 has come up with this new concept of observables. Let's see how much it will go till what point of time, and if they come up with new features of using observables, then this might succeed. And as I said, Angular 2 has declared it as well that this is something which they are experimenting. So if in case tomorrow observables get obsolete or nobody uses observables, then you have a backup plan which is promise. All right, so it depends. The observables might be get famous as well. Then in that case, slowly promises will be removed. Okay, else promises will always be there. Okay, I hope you guys got the flow now, that how is it working. Now what I will show you is you can host the JSON as well. Okay, so where you can host the JSON, I'll say host JSON. So this is one website, myjson.com, where you can actually host your JSON. Okay, so in that case, what you have to do, you don't need to fetch it from your local file system like this. Okay, so here what you will be able to do, you will be able to actually you can get a feel that you are making a request to somewhere else. Okay, so what I do, I will just host this file or the content of this file on myjson.com. Okay, I will just put it here and I will save it. So after you save it, you get one URL here like this, URI to access this JSON directly, this one. Okay, you can just copy it, and instead of this referring to your local file or relative path, you can give the path of this website, https api.myjson.com or something. Okay, no matter, it is also going to do the same thing, but only thing is you will be able to see that you are actually making a HTTP request to some other server. Okay, let's save this and see. Okay, so in your network type you will be able to see the actual data coming. So I click on this, you can see it is making a request to this URL, and you can see the response as well. What is the response? Name equal to a cat guild. Okay, in console as well it will be printed. Yes, it is printed. Again, if I make it using the observable, I click on this. Again, let's go here and see second request is there, right? And again the same thing is happening. I got the response, name as a cat guild. Okay, so in real projects as well, you will be getting a URL like this only, some URL like this, from where you will be actually getting the response. Okay, so this is something which looks like real time. Okay, so you can use this as well. All right, so you can host your files, you can host any kind of JSON here. Okay, hosting means I will say hosting means you put something which is publicly available and then you are using it. Okay, so till now this was on my local server only, local file, local system, right? This file app data.json, nobody can access it. But what I did, I put it here and made it publicly available. Now anyone who has the access to this URL can access my JSON data. Okay, so that means I hosted it on the remote server somewhere publicly. Okay, any other doubts? Yes, so this myjson.com is a website which allows you to host some JSON data. There might be many more, you can use any one. I just Googled it and got it. Okay. I can listen. Somebody was yawning. Okay. All right. So that is about the making HTTP request using promise and observable. Okay. So I got a question to repeat the promise. Okay. I would like to know what you didn't get to know, what didn't you understand about promise, so that I can tell that part. Okay, so you want to know the flow which we have used, or you want to know actually about what is a promise? The flow which I have used, right? Okay. So what I did, I just created one button. Okay. So what is a why I created this button? To initiate something, right? To initiate that event of fetching the data. All right. Just to initiate it, I created one button like this, on click of which I am calling one function. Pretty simple. Now this function has to be inside my component file, right? So I go here and I created one function, the same name. All right. Then what I did, I created one Angular service. Okay. I could have made use of HTTP here itself. Okay. I could have called the HTTP from your component as well. You can do that. Okay. But just to make it structured, I am creating a remote service for it. So here is the service, right? And in this service, its name is remote service. And in this service, I have created one function which is responsible to fetch the data from this service, from this API. Okay. Then in order to utilize this service, you have to inject it here. Same thing I have done. I just injected the remote service and I created its object so that I can access this function. So that I can access this get data function. I have injected this here. All right. Now let's have a look at its implementation. So what I have written here, I have written this dot http dot get. Okay. I have written a this dot http. What is this dot http? It means what? It means I am using the http given by Angular. Okay, and in order to use it, you have to inject it. Import http from angular/http. Okay, so once imported, you created its object. Then I can directly call its functions. http.get, and get requires one parameter, which is the URL from where you want to fetch the data that you have mentioned inside the function bracket. Then I have written to promise. Why I need to write this to promise? Because by default, Angular 2 uses the concept of observables. If you do not use to promise, it will not return you object of promise. It will return you an object of observable. Okay, just like this one. All right. Then you have to consume it like observable by using subscribe function. But you want to access it via dot then function, right? Using dot then. Then you have to make it as to promise. Okay. And then I have registered two callback functions. First one is then is for success, and second one is catch. Catch is for error. If this service is returning the response successfully, then first function will be called. If this service fails, then second function will get called. Okay. Now from where I am calling it, from here, this get data, I have written dot then. Why dot then? Because as I told, response.json function again returns a promise. And that means I am returning a promise from here. Since I am returning a promise from here, I have to resolve it again. That is why I have written dot then, because this is going to give me a promise object, and promise object dot then means I will be able to resolve it. So whatever is getting will be carried here, response, and then I'm just printing the response. It can be error, it can be success, it can be some data. Okay. Is this clear now? So what happens in real life? You can find some objects here. You can find the information of a user, whatever it can be. It can be anything. Is this clear now? Okay. Okay, I got another question. What is it? We can use only JSON data or any other format like array list. No, actually, you have to return JSON only. Okay, inside JSON there can be anything. Inside the JSON there can be some array or whatever it can be. Inside the JSON it can be anything. All right. Okay. So this data and items are nothing, but I think this data we are not even using. We can remove this. Okay. These items I will tell you what it is. We will using it. Okay. All right. Now what I will do is I will show you a real life example of searching from the Wikipedia. Okay. So before going to this example of searching into Wikipedia, what I will do is I will tell you about one concept of Jsonp. Okay. So let everything else be there. Right. So what I will tell you about not one, I will tell you about two concepts. First one is Jsonp and second is URL search parameters. Okay. So first concept Jsonp, that is very, very simple. What is the meaning of a JSON P request? JSON P request means whenever you want to make a request from one domain to another domain. Okay. So what does that mean? That means a cross domain request. What is the meaning of cross domain? Cross domain means one client is running on another server and server is running on another server. Okay. In this case, what happens is your server does not allow you to fetch the resource from a remote server. Okay, or from a different domain. All right. In those cases, what you have to do is you have to make a request called as JSON P request. So what is JSON P request? JSON P request basically allows you to host or to call the data from a different domain. Okay. So currently our server is running where? Our server is running on the, it's running on the local host, right? Now you want to access the server of Wikipedia from our local server. What I'm telling, you want to access the server of Wikipedia from your local server, right? What it is a cross domain request, right? So what your server does, servers most of the times does not allow you to make a request from a different domain because of the security issues, right? Because if they will allow it, then it can be called from anywhere in the world, right? This is a security hack. So that is why what they do, that does not allow you to do it directly. Okay. But what they do, they allow you when you make a request via JSONP. Okay, so JSONP request is a mechanism using which you can make a request to the remote server from a different domain. Okay, so this is first thing. Second thing, can you access everything via JSONP? No, you can't access everything via JSONP. There is a specified list. Okay, so what server's implementation does, they whitelist a few things only. Okay, so they host like this, that most of their secure information or most of their critical information they do not allow via JSONP. Only thing is which can be available publicly, only that information they allow via JSONP request. Okay, so how to make a JSONP request, we will see. So first of all, what you need to do, you need to import JSONP from Angular/HTTP. This is simple, right? And then you have to make its object. Just create an object like this, JSONP. We got JSONP object from JSONP. Okay, now what we can do is we can use it to make the requests. Okay, okay, what is JSONP? JSONP is actually a mechanism using which you can access the remote information from the different domain. Okay, just like a get request, a post request, right? So you can say the JSONP is also a kind of request only. Okay, yeah, actually it is a mechanism, not just a request. It is a mechanism using which you can fetch the data.
Is it like a web service call, a API call we make?
Yes, exactly. It's a API call only. Everything is API call only. Everything, get post, everything is API. Only
Oh,
thing is, if you use JSONP, then you can access the API or access the data from a remote server. Remote server as in which is on a different domain. Okay, let's suppose you are working in a cat guild. You are working on a cat guild website. Okay, you want to fetch some information from Facebook. So Facebook will not allow you to call your Facebook API from a cat guild server, right? That is where the concept of
I,
JSONP comes.
if I have an application, I mean, I have hosted in some server, and if that application consumes Twitter or Facebook API, so it won't be possible directly. I mean, consuming that web service. We have to use it through JSON API. Is it like that?
Yes, you can say that.
Okay.
Okay. First thing is that. Second thing is one more thing which is mostly implemented on the server side. If they will allow the API to be publicly available. Okay, so some of the services, let's suppose some information is there which is anyways public. They don't care whosoever want to access it. Okay, then there is a header which they set that they access allow origin. Okay, there is a header called as access allow origin, which you can set it to everything. That means that service can be accessed from anywhere. Okay, so that service we are not talking right now.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. All right. So where were we? We were talking about this Wikipedia API, right? Yeah. Okay, before that we were talking about the JSONP, right? We created the object of JSONP, and via that we can just call it this.jsonp.get. Okay, but before making a request to this URL, okay, what is this URL? This URL is a API of Wikipedia. Okay, to which you can make a request and get some information. Okay, so this is basically a search API given by Wikipedia from where you can search something. All right, so how we are going to use it, that I will tell you. So in my UI, what I do, I just use it. Okay. So what I did, I created one input text box, okay, in which I will be typing something and then I will be getting that search on the Wikipedia. Okay, and whatever result I will get, I will show it here. Okay, for that I just created one text box. All right, and on key up, I am calling one function. Key up means as soon as I will press one key inside that, it will call this function search wiki. This search wiki is nothing but our function only, where I am passing what? Search item dot value. What is search item? Search item is my template property. And dot value will give me the value of input box, whatever I have written in the input box. Okay. So as soon as I will start typing in that input box, I will call the search wiki function. Let's see what is inside the search wiki function. It is here. Search wiki is a function and it has some definition, right? It accepts the search item, whatever I am typing, that is inside this. Okay. Then I have written this dot remote service dot search. Inside my remote service, I have written one function called as search and passing the whatever the value is present in the text box. Okay. Let's see what is inside this search function in remote service. In remote service, I have this search function, right? So this search function does what? Why I've written this search function? From here, I will be making a JSONP request to the Wikipedia URL to this API. Okay. Then comes the concept of search params. Okay. So what you can do is you can also send some parameters. Okay. If while making a request, like I was making a request here, right? Here you can also send some parameters to this if your service allows it. Okay. Your service has to allow some parameters. All right. In general, how we send parameters? By using question mark. Question mark, maybe if you want the data to be sorted, then what you write sort equals maybe ascending or descending. Okay, like this, descending or ascending. Okay, like this. So what is it? These are parameters which you can send. All right. But Angular has given you another way to send the parameters. That is via URL search params. Okay. So what URL search params gives you, this is also again a function. URL search params you have to import from HTTP. Okay. So using URL search params, you can actually set the parameters by using set function. Okay. So you have created the object of URL search params by writing new. And after that, inside the params, you can set search as search term. This search term is nothing but which you are typing in the input box. Okay. Search. Then this action, open search, format, JSON. These are some default values. Okay. These three are just some default values which Wikipedia need. Okay. That is why we have just put them, because these are parameters which are anyways required. What is the parameter of our concern? Our concern of parameter of our concern is search term. Okay. So that means Wikipedia website says, API says that whatever you want to search, you have to give one key as search and then your value. Okay. What it says? It says you have to pass one parameter search and then you have to pass its value as whatever you want to search in Wikipedia. Okay. Then I have written .map function. Inside the map function, I have just written some extract wiki. Okay. I have written again a function extract wiki. Okay. However, what you can do is you can directly put all this here as well. You could have directly written this lines here as well. Okay. So this is not a big issue. So I just made another function extract wiki. What it does, it just returns response.json, and then I am using the first. What is this one? Actually, Wikipedia returns the objects into a bunch of arrays. Okay, inside that you get lot of arrays. Okay, it can be 0, 1, 2. At every index there is a lot of information. So, but I am just accessing it's one of the information which is at 1. Okay, let's see. Anyways, I have printed the complete response as well. Whatever response we will get, I have printed it here. Okay, let's see now. You will be able to see whatever I will type here. Okay, so I just press A. Okay, as soon as I press A, you can see you got some response. What is inside this response? There are 4 arrays. Okay, so what the first array contains? First array contains something: A, association, football, Australia, animal, all this stuff. Second array also contains some other stuff. Third array also contains some stuff. Okay, so this is not of our concern. Our concern is that your flow is working. Your JSONP request is actually reaching the servers of Wikipedia, and you are able to fetch some response from there. Right? If I show you from the network tab, you will see this. You are actually making a request to Wikipedia API, and then your parameters also you can see here. Right? Search is a parameter where we have entered A. Right? This is the value A. Search term, action, open search, format JSON. Okay, so this one we don't need. Only thing is, you can see that now your parameters are again going like this only. Right? As I was telling, that using the question mark you can directly hard code here as well. But Angular gives you another object, URL search parameters. Using URL search parameters and then setting it, you can actually set it via function like this. This is pretty neat and clean way of doing it. Okay. So if I type something else here, let's type Angular. Okay. So as soon as you are typing, you can see a lot of requests are going to the server. Okay. And for Angular, they have given a lot of these many stuff. Okay, like this. If you see here, response. First one is having some Angular momentum, Angular velocity. Then you have some other things as well. Angular may refer to in physics, Angular momentum. In physics, this. In quantum mechanism, Angular is this. Right? AngularJS, commonly referred to as Angular or Angular.js, is a complete JavaScript based open source. Right? So what we are doing, we just hitting the Wikipedia server by using our Jsonp request. Okay, and how I am printing it on the UI? Just by writing, getting the response, right? In my component.js file, I got the response. I just putting it into the this dot items, these items. Okay, response I put in the items, and then I am binding the items here. Using ng4, I am iterating over the items, and I am just printing it. Okay, since you are printing it, that is why you are able to see here this one. Okay, so our main issue was related to how you make the requests. That is the main issue, and that is what we have done by using the Jsonp. Okay, so here we have used the observables. You can use the promise as well, no problem at all. Rather, I recommend to use promise for now. All right. So this is about our promises, observables, and making a JSON P request. All right. Yep. So that concludes our session for today. If you guys have any doubts, you can ask. I can see one question. How will we know what all packages are to be installed and what all functions are to be called at the initial stage? Uh, so Janya, what packages you are talking about here? Okay, URL params and all this stuff. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So as I told, this URL params is also nothing but a kind of extra overhead given to you. Okay. Where is it? Here. Right. So however what is it doing ultimately? It is ultimately appending it to your URL only. Okay. And that is how we generally do. Even till now, I am using that way only by writing question mark and then appending the parameters. Okay. But Angular has come up with this is a new thing. Okay. So whenever you will need it, you will anyways find it. Okay. So it's nothing like there is a hard and fast rule. You use this only. Okay. But yeah, it is good. You use it. Okay. Other than this, I know, I think you are worried that how will you get to know a lot of stuff. So whatever is generally used with whatever you have to use in your projects, we are in our course, we are telling that. Okay. So out of this, there will be very few things which you have to go and explore. But yeah, anyways, as I always say, that no one can cover the complete 100% because it's a huge framework. What we do is we set up a benchmark, we give a foundation. Okay. Other than that, whenever you need, you can anyways explore more. All right. And you can anyways, or you can anytime refer to the angular.io, the actual documentation. Okay. There you will see thousands of functions. All right. But anyways, at any point of time, you are going to use only few of them, right? And what all is generally used, everything we cover. All right. Yeah. Okay. Any other question from anyone? Okay. I think you guys should give it a try. All right. And one more thing is which I just forgot to tell you regarding this JSON P. Inside your this app.module.ts, here also you need to import this JSON P module. Okay. So this is something which you have to do it. If you want to use JSON P module inside your imports, you have to import it JSON P module, and then you have to import like this only from HTTP JSON P module. Okay. So this is one thing which I wanted to tell. Okay. All right. Any other questions from anyone? If not, then this tutorial will be available maybe by tomorrow. What you guys can do is just go through it once again and try to do whatever I have done. Host a JSON on myjson.com or any other hosting website. Just host it there and try to access that data. Okay. If not even JSON P, leave JSON P. If you not even observables, if you do not want to mess with observable, you can leave. But you should give it a try. at least to the promises. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, so what I do is I upload this file. However, I don't think so it is of much use to you, but yeah, no problem. I will upload this file. Where is it? Here. Okay, in the reference material, I will upload this. All right. So we got this file. You can go through it if you need. Okay. Okay, then fine. If no questions, then what we'll do, we will meet on Wednesday now. All right. And we'll see what all we can cover there. Okay. All right, then we can close here. I stop sharing my screen. Thanks, guys. Bye. Have a good night.